collectors master regret? And I don't want you to just stay inside the box with this one. So when I ask you, are collectors the true masters of regret? I need you to really think about that. Every shelf that we have in our display hides two kinds of pain, the yin and the yang, or the flip side to collecting. It's really either the figures that we missed out on or the ones that we wished we never bought. But there's a twist to this whole topic, because if you ask me, regret doesn't weaken us. It actually makes us stronger. Regret is really the fire that makes us sharper, more intentional, and more patient. Not only as collectors, but also as people, because regret isn't just something that we go through or carry as collectors. We don't lie to ourselves like other hobbies and tell ourselves that this will never happen again. Honestly, we live every single day dancing with regret, because every single purchase, or even everything that we didn't purchase, has the potential to become a regret so big that we could never forget it. And that's the very reason that regret isn't just something that us collectors carry. It's also something that we master. Stick around. With the exception of you starting like yesterday, every collector has felt the sting of the one that's gotten away. And the funny thing about that sting is you don't feel it right away. Sometimes we don't even know it's coming. It creeps up later when you realize something slipped past you. It's wild how that regret camouflages too, because it can come in a couple of different ways. The worst one to me, the one that cuts the deepest, is the figure that we never even saw in the first place. We never even had a chance to make a decision. The figure just came and went like it was never real, like it was just a rumor. We get those characters all the time. And that's when you really start to see the cracks in the distribution. You start to realize that this hobby is not a level playing field. Sometimes it's not about how dedicated you are or how hard you hunt. Sometimes it's just luck and geography and being in the right place at the right time. And that right there is the slap in the face, because sometimes no matter how much effort you put into it, there's really nothing that you can do about it. How many times has that happened to you? You know where figures drop and you circle your calendar in preparation. You're checking your local Walmarts and Targets before work, during work, after work, and nothing. It's like the shelves are a ghost town. Meanwhile, we open up our feed of choice and it's looking like a whole different universe. People in other states are walking around taking pictures, just leisurely running into these characters on their lunch break, just casually strolling through the aisles, running into a whole wall of blue cyborg Superman like it's a Todd McFarlane commercial. And you're just sitting there like, really? Meanwhile, on your block, it's dry as a desert. You start to second guess yourself and you start thinking like, well, maybe it's just my town. So you push it further out and you hit the next town or the next county. But nah, it's just as dry over there. Now we're back online and all of a sudden, everything is double or triple the price. The resellers and scalpers saw the opportunity before you even had a chance. Now they cashing in, and at that point, you're not even interested anymore, because we're not about to reward that hustle. And after a while, we just kind of shrug it off. We tell ourselves, whatever, I guess that's the one that got away. I can live without it. And deep down, you know, you're probably never gonna see that figure. And that's when the regret really starts to creep in. But you want to know what the worst part of that regret is? For some reason, the toy gods just love to laugh in your face and rip the band-aid off just when you start healing. Just when you've convinced yourself that you don't need it anyway. Just when the sting is starting to fade. It's like the universe laughs in your face. All of a sudden, your Facebook feed blows up, and every Ollie's and every Ross and every discount store across America is getting that exact figure that you just couldn't find. The one you never saw. The one that you gave up on. And now it's going for $10? You check homie's location and you see that he's out in New Mexico. And you're thinking to yourself, New Mexico? How does New Mexico get trucks of figures that was never even released to the East Coast or never even came out here? I remember clearly when I was seeing Spiral and Dark Phoenix on everybody's shelves. Not on my shelves though, not in my state. But in everybody else's feed, it's almost comical. It's almost cruel. And that right there is what I call a charge it to the game regret. We can't explain it. We can't fight it. We just have to accept it as part of collector life. Those regrets don't just fade away. They stick. They live on in your Facebook groups, in those reviews that you watch a couple of months later, in those pictures on somebody else's shelf. Those are like little ghosts that haunt you in the back of your mind, reminding us of what it was that slipped through our fingers. But yet, there's a hidden gift buried in all of that frustration, because those misses, as painful as they are, remind us that collecting was never about having it all. If we could get every figure, instantly, with no struggle, with no patience, and no sacrifice. Would they even mean the same thing? The truth is, the thrill of collecting comes just as much from the chase as it does from the catch. It's really the ups and the downs, the misses and the victories that really give weight to our shells. Sometimes, the regret of missing out is what actually makes the win taste sweeter. They teach us to value the pieces that we did come across because we know what it feels like to miss out. And maybe, just maybe, that's part of what makes this hobby more than just toys. It's really the struggle that shapes our story. Now, if the regret of missing out sneaks up on you, the regret of buying too much, that sits right there in front of your face. That one right there doesn't hide. It's right there every time you look at your shelves, or even worse, every time you look at a pile of unopened boxes in the corner of your room. This regret right here is a different kind of sting. Missing out hurts because you didn't get it. That's the face side of regret. Buying too much hurts because you did get it, and maybe we shouldn't have. And we can all be real because we've all done it. A figure's announced, the hype is through the roof, and before you even realize, is this figure for me? It's already in your cart. We convince ourselves, if I don't get this now, I'm gonna miss out. I'm gonna regret this later. And then it pulls up. We open the box, we pose it once or twice, and then it goes right there on the shelf, blending into the sea of plastic faces just staring back at you. Or maybe it doesn't even make it out the box. That right there is the collector's equivalent to buying sneakers that you're never gonna wear. We just stack the box and we tell ourselves, I'm gonna open it later. But we all know, later never really comes. And that is where the regret starts to creep in. It's quiet, but it's heavy. Another classic flavor of regret is chasing Build-A-Figures. Tell me that you haven't done this. We want that centerpiece, that big monster, that grail character. And the only way to really get them is to buy 5 or 6 characters that you really don't care about. We justify it because we feel like the end goal is worth it. But then we're stuck with a wave of characters that really mean nothing to us. They just sit there, unopened, as placeholders we only bought to get a prize. And that's a hollow kind of regret too, because right there we realize we spend money and space on things that we really didn't want. And in those moments, we start to question ourselves. Am I collecting because I love it or because I feel pressured? Am I telling my story or am I letting the hype write it for me? And that's a heavy thing to face because it forces you to realize how easy it is to go from intentional collecting to mindless consuming. And let's not forget about the fan favorite, the fear of missing out. That little voice in your head that tells you that everybody else is getting this. And if you don't get it, you're the worst. That voice right there will get you to start buying things that you don't really want. And suddenly you're sitting on a pile of figures that you never even had an emotional tie to. It's really the hype train that made it feel so urgent. But as heavy as it feels, this regret also carries a lesson. It shows us what happens when we collect without intention. It teaches us the difference between buying to build a shelf and buying to build a story. Because let's keep it 100. A collection isn't just plastic stacked on plastic. A collection is a reflection. It's supposed to tell people something about us, the characters that we love, the stories that shaped us, the art that we respect. Whenever we let hype or FOMO start making our choices for us, our shelves stop telling our story and they really start telling somebody else's. And that's where regret comes in as a teacher. Every impulse buy that collects dust is a reminder to us to slow down, to ask ourselves, does this character belong in my story before we hit the checkout aisle? And don't get me wrong, we all make mistakes. Nobody's shelves are perfect and nobody avoids regret completely. But here's the thing, those regrets aren't failures. They're filters. They trim the fat. They help you to clear out the noise and to focus on what it is that matters. Because sometimes we need to live through regret so we can understand what it is that we value. We buy a figure that we really didn't care about. And that figure pushes us closer to curating, to being intentional, to building a collection that feels like ours and not the algorithms, not like the hype train and nothing like somebody else's top 10 list. And that's why I call this regret the silent teacher. It doesn't really scream out at you the way that missing out does. It just sits there quietly on your shelf, reminding you to do better next time. And in a weird way, that's why I feel like collectors are the masters of regret. We don't run from it. We live with it. Every shelf carries it, but over time, we learn how to turn that into wisdom So which regret is worse? The figure that slipped through your fingers or the one that you bought and you wish that you didn't? That's the tough part, and there's really no easy answer because both sides hurt in their own way. Missing out leaves you an empty space in your shelf and maybe an empty space in your heart. Buying too much fills the space, but with the wrong things. It's really the yin and the yang of collecting. One side burns because of absence. The other side burns because of excess. And here's the reality. You can't escape either one. You can try. You can tell yourself to never miss another pre-order, never fall for the hype train, and never buy outside of your lane again. But if you're really in this hobby, then you know for a fact that regret is coming for you one way or another. The truth of the matter is that collecting is based on decisions. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. Do I buy this now or do I wait? Do I pre-order this figure or do I roll the dice at retail? Do I skip this whole wave or do I chase it down for the builder figure? Every single one of those decisions has the potential to become one of our regrets. And that right there is the dance. But here's where things flip, because regret doesn't have to be the villain of collecting. It could also be the teacher. We miss a figure once, and we learn the rhythm of pre-orders, when to move quick and when to hold back. We overspend once, and we understand the value of patience, that sales are always going to come and hype fades out, that nothing stays impossible forever. We buy too much at one time, and we learn the freedom of letting go, the power of selling, trading, or donating whatever it is that doesn't fit our story. Regret transforms you. It goes from frustration to wisdom, and from pain to perspective. And that's why I say that collectors live in a balance. We're not running from regret. We're learning from it. Every mistake, every miss, every misstep, it all sharpens us. It refines how we hunt and how we curate and how it is we tell our story from the pieces that we choose. The best collectors I've ever met, they're not the ones who never missed a figure or never made a bad buy. Those are the ones who've been through both sides. They've taken their hits and now they're better and smarter because of it. They don't repeat the same mistakes. They really let regret refine them until their collecting feels intentional again and not just random. And that's what balance really means. It's not about eliminating regret. It's about holding it in both hands, the mistakes and the misses, and letting them both shape you. And that's how you move from being somebody who just buys toys to being somebody who could be labeled as a collector. Because in the balance of regret, we don't just find frustration, we also find growth. And here's the part that I want you to really hear. Regret doesn't make us weaker as collectors. It actually makes us stronger. I know that sounds backwards because in every other space, regret is painted as a failure. People say, no regrets, like it's a badge of honor. But let's be real. In collecting, regret is baked in. It's not really something that we could avoid. It's something that we have to learn to carry. And the more we carry, the stronger we get. I'll keep it 1,000. My own shelves have scars on them. Figures that I chased down because the hype told me I had to have them. Waves that I completed just for the builder figure. Just to realize that none of those characters mean anything to me. And on the flip side, what about those grails that I passed on, thinking that I had more time than I actually did? If I can go back, would I change some of those decisions? Maybe, but the reality is that those regrets built me. They taught me discipline. They taught me patience. They taught me to slow down, to be intentional, to collect for myself and not to collect for the crowd, because every regret leaves a scar. But scars are proof of survival, proof that we lived through something, learned something, and came out sharper because of it. And that's the paradox of collecting. Regret isn't the opposite of joy. Regret is the path to joy. It's that thing that teaches us how to savor the wins, how to celebrate the shelves that we have built, and how to laugh at what we missed and just let it roll off our back. When we master regret, we stop being controlled by it. We stop chasing every drop in pre-order out of fear, and we start moving with focus, clarity, and peace. And that right there is the strength that I want collectors to feel. That no matter how many misses you've had, no matter how many impulse buys are on your shelf, you're not weak for carrying that regret. You're stronger for mastering it. Regret doesn't define your collection. It refines it. And when you live that truth, you realize that collecting isn't just about getting figures. It's about identity. It's about patience, about learning to accept imperfections while still curating your joy. So the next time you feel that sting, whether it's a figure that you missed out on or a figure that you really shouldn't have bought, remember this: you're not alone. And every single collector carries regret. But the difference between us and every other hobby is this: we don't just carry regret. We live with it, we learn from it, and we master it. Regret doesn't define your collection. It refines it. It sharpens our eyes, our patience, and our discipline. It forces us to ask the hard questions, and it helps us to curate a story that actually feels like it's ours. And if you can master regret, you're not just stacking figures, you're building wisdom, you're building resilience, and you're building culture. And that's why I believe collectors, all of us, are masters of regret. Not because we avoid it, but because we take it, we hold it, and we turn it into strength. Until next time. Peace.